Well, good morning. Good morning. Happy Palm Sunday. I guess it's Happy Palm Sunday. The thing about this particular holiday, I'd like to just draw a couple of comparisons here. There is a tone in the New Testament of Jesus or the leader of the church in comparison to Caesar. So Caesar would have rode in town on a stallion because it would have been as a function of war. But Jesus comes in on a donkey. A donkey is something that is created for work. It symbolizes poor people and working people. And what I think is going on there is this, is that it's not the arms or the war that will be the winner in the end. It will be peace. Yes. It will be peace. So believe it or not, that's not the sermon this morning. Oh, Lord. Where's my slide here? So this morning's title is Find Your Bliss. Have you ever been so happy and excited that you couldn't contain yourself? When you have an aha moment, there's something special about what happens. It's a transcendent experience. It's beyond just what's physically happening. There's something happening in us. Have you ever experienced bliss? Spiritual ecstasy, spiritual pleasure, delight, harmony, a transcendent experience. If you haven't experienced it, if you have never experienced feeling oneness, I'm inviting you to consider it this morning. The one thing that is always prevalent is there's always the onlookers, and then there are those that are partake, right? And those that partake enjoy themselves and have a great experience, but there are always people who haven't had that experience yet. And so my prayer for you this morning, if you are willing to receive, is that you experience bliss. If you are willing is always the question when it comes to spirit. Are you willing? Or do you expect God to overwrite and make you do it? And just how effective would that be? It's all about receiving. And so it is with an experience of oneness. Unless you are willing to receive it, you won't receive anything. It's not possible because you are resisting it and you get in life what you hold to. Willingness is always the criterion for spiritual experience. For the Spirit to act in our consciousness, we must be willing to receive. So I'm encouraging this morning a spiritual refresh. So real that nothing could happen to you that would make you doubt and question the presence of God, the presence of love in the universe. If love has touched you in such a way, I hope you have a refreshing. And if you haven't experienced, I hope you're willing to receive it. It's a time when you feel that your inside and your outside are all united. It is one. So I invite you to take a breath, if you've had that experience before, and just bring it to mind as you take a breath, and I'll continue. That place and time that we experience bliss is so special to us, and I'm going to share one of my experiences this morning. A time when you know that you are one with Spirit, one with God, one with the love of the universe. It's a new reality. It's spiritual awareness. So I'm using the book called Abundance by Deepak Chopra. Abundance is the inner path to wealth. To experience abundance is an inward journey. It is an inward journey that manifests in your life. Abundance is in you, and you manifest as prosperity. A consciousness of abundance comes from an inner wisdom within us. We all have it. The objective of spiritual practices is to change or shift our consciousness that therefore our behavior will change as well, from the inner to the outer. Again, I'm talking about yoga this morning, yoga with a capital Y, not a small y, with a capital Y. Because the issue of yoga and the goal is about yoking, about uniting the outside with the inside. Abundance is an inner path and an outer demonstration. To know something and to act on the knowledge. For instance, I know all the medicine associated with overeating and being overweight, but that doesn't mean I live like that. I don't necessarily use the knowledge that I have, because I can't imagine being 30 pounds lighter than I am right now. But that would be healthy. My hips probably wouldn't hurt so bad either. But just because we have the knowledge, it does not mean that we practice. To know something and act upon the knowledge. That's what this is about this morning. To experience wholeness and oneness. To yoke what is outside of us, our behavior and what we do and how we think, with how we think and our thoughts and our position that we believe comes from spirit. Our behavior is always linked to our beliefs. It's what we believe that determines what we do. It's affected, though, by our emotions of fear. Fear is always the limiting factor. Living in a world from cause is very important, but it must be intentional. If not, we are living from the world of effect. We are looking from the condition and operating concerning the condition and not the cause of this consciousness that we share. When we live from effect, though, we cannot experience peace and wholeness. And for me, it's just downright stressful. Because as David just saying, something holding on to me even when I cannot feel that I can hold on. We get stressed because we are looking at the condition. I do it. It happens. So there's some days I can be a major worrier for just a little while. And I want to stay there and have a little pity party. And then I realize I just go right back to cause. And I just know that God is the only power in my life. And once you recognize that God is the only power in your life, the condition, you don't worry about the condition. It'll take care of itself. We are looking at living from cause. The real purpose of life is the same for everyone, according to yoga. To connect with the generosity of spirit and let it provide for all of our needs. All of our needs. Live in the flow. So this morning's spiritual principle says this: not seeing, yet believing. Rejoice with joy unspeakable and full of glory. Even though we may not see it, we hold to the fact that it is true, and therefore we can rejoice. Yoga is the science of consciousness. That's what we're talking about. When we say God, we really are talking about consciousness. When we say spirit, we're really talking about consciousness. All of those terms, all kinds of terms, represent that what is transcendent. It is where we come from, because we live in a spiritual universe and we are spiritual beings. To experience abundance, you have to have a daily practice, though, of generosity of spirit, so that you can live in the flow of it all. The generosity of spirit manifests as infinite abundance, infinite possibilities, unlimited creativity, and eternal love. It's the boundless giving and the generosity to give, knowing that you will receive. Not where you give, you won't receive. You will receive someplace else. That's the act of faith. Money and prosperity are manifestations of our consciousness of abundance. And so we always have to reflect when we don't have the prosperity in our lives. We just have to reflect on really what we believe. If we shift our attitude away from the condition, though, away from money or the lack of money as a goal, instead, we want to live a complete and full, abundant life. We will have the absolute support of the universe and all consciousness if we set that intention. Not to act foolishly, not to go out and take $1 billion loan out when you have $100,000 consciousness. Because that's going to be a mighty big deficit. Now, if you got faith for it, do it. But you better have faith for it. Don't come here and tell us, y'all, I need all of you guys to pray for me to pay back this $1 billion. You know, make sure you got the faith for it. To have a consciousness, our consciousness is always manifesting in our life. So we have to reflect upon our lives to say, really, no matter what I say, what do I really believe? But we only have to change our thinking for the circumstances to change. Don't beat yourself up. Just change your thought. We must change our awareness for our consciousness to shift. When the inner and the outer are in sync, we are living in our Dharma, and abundance will follow. Dharma is the basic principle of cosmic and individual existence. It is the divine law. It is the universal truth. It is the alignment of nature with what our duty, what we do as a result of it. So what is in us, our consciousness within us of abundance, works its way out in our behavior. Now, Joseph Campbell, the mythologist, coined the term to follow your bliss. This morning, though, I don't really want you to follow your bliss. What I'd like you to understand is that you are your bliss. The bliss is in you. You don't have to follow anything unless you're following yourself, because it's in you. I am referring to a consciousness of bliss that comes from the abundance of spirit. The bliss of life comes from within. When we experience lack, we are probably not aligned in our Dharma. Yoga teaches that we are closer to, as we are closer to source, and our awareness is built, the stronger our manifestation would be. We say the same thing. If you are close to source, that you understand that the source of all good is how we survive, regardless to the circumstances. It doesn't mean that you won't be affected by the circumstances, but you can overcome the circumstance. It is a consciousness that gives us the things that we desire. Now, the Hebrew scriptures even say that it is God that gives us the power to get wealth. Abundance is thriving and surviving, lacking nothing. And when we have a setback, we know we just have to wait for the manifestation in our life. It is this bliss consciousness that will keep us in the tough times. And it springs from the field of infinite possibilities, and we are fulfilled. We learn to live in the now instead of the disappointments of the past. We overcome worry because we understand it is pointless to worry. Worry is not a spiritual practice. It won't get you anything but miserable and stuck in the condition. It is pointless and unnecessary. I'm not judging, because you call me tomorrow, I might be in it. But it's still pointless even for me. We have the faith to act in generosity instead of holding on to fear. We stop living for others' approval and stop fearing disapproval. Now that's the trap. Seeking approval and worrying about getting approval. We claim responsibility for our emotions as well as our reactions. We renounce blame and we allow the creativity that is within us to emerge. It's not someone else's art. It's what's in us, each one of us, that makes a difference. That's the gift we have all been given. We respond more from our hearts than we do from our heads. We start looking for the good instead of looking for all the flaws and the things that are missing in life. Do you ever pay attention to everything that's wrong? It takes a shift, right? To just start remembering all of the good. We start looking, thank you. I told him, make sure you always help me out here. We start looking for the good instead of looking for the bad. We stop resisting and we begin joining the flow of life. Bliss is self-generating. We do not make it happen, and we don't follow it. It comes from within us when our awareness is there. We are the producers of the bliss. Wherever you are, you can experience bliss. According to Deepak, yoga, bliss, intelligence, creative expression, love, successful action, and self-empowerment are all a part of creative intelligence. And creative intelligence for us, we can translate into spiritual awareness. It goes from the 7th chakra. You know, there are 7 chakras, and Deepak gets in discussing all of them. Now, they are in particular areas of our body, but it doesn't come from the organ that it's next to. It's a transcendent energy and power. The energy, the spirit, the consciousness in the area. That's all. Think about it. When you are stressed or nervous, where do you feel it? In your stomach and in your neck, right? That's where the energy, you focus the energy there because you're scared. Creative intelligence flows through the crown chakra. We access it through meditation and our desire. Now, as a community, we embrace many, many, many beliefs, right? And we celebrate them. We're happy for it. We don't ask anyone to prescribe to a specific set of rules and dogma. That's just not our style. In fact, we can't even play that off if we tried. It's just not possible. We don't ask anyone to go along with a particular system, but live out of love, the value of love and justice. And those are the things that we request that people do. Most of the time, various principles are in our life from various traditions. Most of it doesn't all come from the same tradition. Even though the faith system emerged in a particular culture, because it's principle, it is transferable. And the principle works even in another culture. So the 7th chakra, the Ananda, the center of bliss, joy, oneness, and wholeness. Now, reading this book reminded me of something that happened to me many, many years ago. And until this weekend, I've never shared this before because where I grew up, they would have put me away. Many years ago, I had an experience that I just didn't understand. And I didn't understand anything about chakra. Detroit, is there chakra in Detroit? I don't know. I didn't judge it, but it just wasn't my experience. I grew up in a mixture, and people always ask me this, really, what part of faith system were you in? So I'm going to tell you. It was a mixture of New Thought unity and being a charismatic, with absolutely every manifestation associated with it. That's how I grew up. Being filled, our language was being filled with the Spirit, or filled with the Holy Ghost. I don't know why we call it ghost, though, you know. Now, think about what I just said. It's the same language as it is for a shaman. Again, these principles are transferable. So growing up from the influence of unity in particular, so I, of course, meditated even as a young, actually quite a young age. Now, the interfaith characteristic of unity was not prevalent at the time. So this was not something that we were discussing at the time. That has, come out later. My point is that I wasn't seeking anything, but something happened. I have come to understand that in most of my life that I have an experience that I have to go back and investigate what just happened to me. Somehow I just have this desire for spirit and I just get led from one thing to the next. It is rarely intentional that when I have an experience, then I got to go back and research what just happened to me. I had an experience that I had to research to understand. I wasn't seeking it at all. As we were being led into meditation, I fell into the silence. And all of you know that in the silence, you don't know you were in the silence until you come out of the silence, right? Well, while I was in the silence, I had an inner visual experience of seeing beams of light like firecrackers shooting out of my head, from the top of my head. I can, it's right here today looking at all of you, I can still see it in my mind. So what do I do with this? Because this is not a part of my tradition. I have to go back and research what in the world just happened to me. But I had experienced ecstasy. I wasn't seeking it, and I didn't have any drugs to get there. You know, and if that's your way, fine. I mean, don't bother me. Whatever way you seek spirit is purely fine with me. I had no idea what I was experiencing, though. I know it felt similar to the spirit of what our experience of what we call being filled with the Spirit, but it had a different flavor to it because it was visual, where that had not been my experience in the past. And any way you need to access spirit, I just follow it. I just see where I end up. So, by the way, I often have transcendent experiences up here. And I'm going to tell you when I'm having them. I always turn around. I always turn around because sometimes I'm about ready to bust, okay? That's just a part of my upbringing and my experience. I am very emotional about my love for God. When I returned to consciousness, I could barely walk. I was totally disoriented. My whole behavior was I was just disoriented. I went through the entire class. I didn't say a word. My only concern was if I could drive myself home, because I just needed to get home. I felt euphoric and I felt intoxicated. I only wondered if I could get home. Other than that, it was an amazing experience. So as I looked this up, I realized that my 7th chakra had opened. And it took me quite a while to figure it out. So I became interfaith from one experience after another. I didn't hear it and I go, that's a good thing to believe in, and I embraced it. Most of my experience has been something happened to me and I have to go back and try to figure out what it is. I was in ecstasy and at the same time exhausted. Now, the 7th chakra is bliss. Deepak talks about it being inspirational in its spiritual impulses that seek spiritual impulses. It's a transcendent experience. Spirituality is bliss consciousness. And when awareness is bliss, it is joy unspeakable and full of glory. To quote Joseph Campbell, follow your bliss, but understand if you are following the bliss that is coming from within you. And that's what we share with one another. That's how when we are together, we share this bliss experience. I feel moved to encourage you, for those of you who have had such an experience, that you seek a refreshing of it. Just being willing for it to happen in your life. And for those who haven't, consider it. Being open to an awareness of consciousness that, for me, was even visual. It's spiritual awareness to reflect on the power of the experience. And I pray for those of you who need a refresher that you get a refreshing. A refreshing anchors us back in what we believe, and it helps us resist the doubt and unbelief that's so easy for us to take on. For anyone without a spiritual awareness, it's all about being willing. That's all it is. There's nothing special. It's about being willing to receive from Spirit. There is an inner message from this experience that you are more than enough. And no matter what you've been through, you can overcome. That's that inner voice that's there. We want you to have this experience of being happy and feeling fulfilled, not dreading life. And that has to be an intentional thing, to experience bliss, spiritual ecstasy. It just happens in the Spirit if you're willing to receive. The oneness, it reminds us that we are one. So I pray for you, if you will, and again, I would never pray against your will, but my prayer for you is for the refreshing, for those of you that have experienced it, and for those of you that have not, who would like to experience it, that it manifests in your life. That's my prayer for you. It is a new reality. Bliss is the abundance. It's the abundance that comes out of the Spirit within us. The experience of abundance is an inner path to wisdom. It leads us, it guides us. I don't know how I end up in places. I don't know how I got here sometimes. My plan in life was not to do what I'm doing right now. It really wasn't. And as much as I wanted to do was just like our sister chaplain Tanya. I was going to be a chaplain. That was my thing. You know, now you can't shut me up. Somebody said, oh, I bet you love being in social situations. I go, no, I don't. I love being, I hate doing chit chat. I like an audience. It's just the truth anyhow, as they say. It's just the truth anyhow. It's very important to me. I like it. It's the real purpose of our life is the same for everyone, is that we connect to the generosity of spirit and let the rest just be provided for us. Not seeing, yet believing, we rejoice with joy unspeakable and full of glory. And so it is. Amen. Amen. It is time. Oh, I guess I should pray, shouldn't I? Oh. Uh-oh. Time to pray. Just pray with me, giving thanks and praise. So I ask Divine Spirit for the refreshing, the spiritual refreshing that makes us go on and on and on, the bliss that is from within us. And anyone that is willing to receive, I speak it forth, and I rejoice, believing before I even see it, that I know it's so, because it's full of joy unspeakable and full of glory. Amen. And so it is. And Ashe, and I was looking at Ashe this week, it is the power to make it happen. Ashe is the power to make it happen. It is spiritual power.
Lord, you are good all the time. You always seem to blow my mind. And just when I thought you've done more than enough, you do one more thing to blow my